Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you. Today we're going to be looking at the Gigabyte GTX480 Super Overclock. But I want to explain something to you because I know immediately when people have seen this, especially the regular subscribers, they're going to have looked at the video thinking, well, isn't it a bit late to do that because of the 580s now out? And technically, yeah, I can understand where you're coming from. But what I want to clarify is I did receive one of these cards about 2 weeks before the 580 release. But thankfully the wonderful chaps at DHL looked like they'd driven a tank over the box. Now the original card that I got was what you'd call an engineering sample. There was no retail packaging, it was just the card in an anti-static bag, but then it was completely padded out with foam and everything in the box. It was, do you know what I mean? For normal posting it would have been fine, but it really did look like an elephant had sat on it. So when we got the card, sadly it was dead on arrival, which I was a bit gutted about actually, because I was really looking forward to reviewing this. And generally with the manufacturer that would be a point in time where they kind of like draw a line in the sand and go, oh well, do you know what I mean, never mind. But props to the guys at Gigabyte, because I had another delivery due to come out, that they sent me another card, but they sent me a retail card this time, so it means I can get right down and dirty and do a review for you. But I know a lot of you are going to be saying, well, it's a 480, why would I want a 480 now, the 580's out? And at the end of the day it is a very good point, but all the 580s at the moment are reference, and the GTX 480 is pretty much a cream of the crop 480, as in this is probably about as good as you're ever going to see a 480, because people aren't going to be spending any money on research and development to make them better anymore. And there's an awful lot on the card, because this is the original one that came that was dead, so obviously I've got one that I can show you a naked card, while I've got one behind me that's working. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring you in now so I can show you the naked card up close and personal. We can have a bit of a geek porno for the first few minutes of the video, so we can have a proper look at this and we can see how much time and effort that's gone into this, and then we'll have a look at the card's performance and gameplay afterwards. So without further ado, let's get on to the dirty stuff. Right then guys and girls, let's get down and dirty with the nudity of this card. We all like to have a good look at the PCB. So what I'll do is I'll give you a quick look round, and then I'll also explain some of the features of the card. First thing really is this button here. You can click it on and off. That's to change between two BIOSes. You've got the normal Super Overclock BIOS. When that's activated the button lights red, but you can flick to a second BIOS by pressing the button, which enables the LN2 BIOS, and basically that's a BIOS for extreme overclocking. It's also a BIOS that helps eliminate the cold bug, because sometimes the cards can refuse to start when they're extreme below zero temperatures. So that always helps, because this card really is aimed at big overclockers, people that do it for a hobby, not necessarily want to have something that's crazy all the time. But it is a fast card straight out the box. But they've put a lot of time and attention into this, because it's like these are the low RDS MOSFETs, which are just made so they can switch power with a lot less resistance but switch power quicker. These are ferrite core metal chokes. These apparently, just reading off like the blurb that Gigabyte send, are able to store and hold energy much longer than normal chokes. And then you've got Japanese solid capacitors, tier 1 Samsung and Hynix memory. I've not been able to work out which one's which. I think most of it on here is all Samsung, so I don't know where the Hynix is. It's very similar in some respects to Gigabyte's motherboards, because it's got the 2-ounce copper PCB, and these babies here are apparently called proidizers. It's a real... Oh, here, look, I'll show you. This is what I'm reading off. Extreme high capacitance and low ESL ESR. So there you go, you know where I know I'm getting it from. And I'll show you in the video in a minute, but this row of components here is actually a series of LEDs to show you how many phases that the card is using when under load. Because there are 14 phases on the card altogether. 2 are for the RAM, and then you've got 12 phases for the GPU core itself. And these lights change depending on the amount of load that's being pulled, but I'll show you that later on in the video. But there's the original GF100 core, GPU, whatever you want to call it, and yeah, once the camera focuses, it's taking its time today. Obviously there you can see the 8-pin plus the 6-pin. It's a lot less power connectors than what was on the MSI GTX Lightning, but as you'll see later on in the video, maybe the Lightning was a little bit more overkill, because I've been incredibly impressed with this card. Let's take a look at the cooler quickly. Right, here's the cooler, guys. As you can see, you've got those 3 large fans there hovering over quite a large heatsink, really. There are 4 heat pipes in total. 3 go onto the copper core in the middle, and there's mention of vapour chamber in this. And looking at it, there is a distinct possibility that this has got a similar kind of idea vapour chamber to what is now on the GTX 580s. Sadly, it won't be as cool as the GTX 580s, because what we need to remember is this is still on the GF100 core, not the GF104, I think it is, on the 580s. But anyway, you can see the large heat pipes. This one here is the only one that doesn't go onto the actual copper core itself. This one just goes onto one of the memory branches. The other 2 round here, you can see, go straight into the core. The whole time that this video has been on as well, I've had the SOC running. So if you can hear any fans, it's that, and it's not being funny. For a 480, it really isn't that loud at all. They say it's 13% lower temperatures. And if you're wondering what that noise is, that's my mobile phone buzzing behind me. But we need to wrap this section of the video up anyway, and actually get on to looking at the card's performance. Right then, guys, this is the Overclock Guru. It's a bit of software that comes bundled with the card. It's like Gigabyte's version of Afterburner, but there's actually a lot more in it. You've got, basically, this is the overclock section, and you've got profiles up here that you can save your overclocks to, or your settings to, and you can even assign hotkeys as well. You've got access. If you put everything on, if you put it on manual, you've got access to change the GPU voltage and the memory voltage. Obviously, you can change the core clock. Shader clock is always tied in with the core clock, and then you can change the memory clock as well. Over on this side, on the right hand side over here, you can see this is the power phase meter at the top, which is quite a cool little analog dial. So as you start to use more power, this dial will go side to side and go up. And on the meters down here, you've got GPU clock and memory clock, because obviously the the clocks actively will change so that it saves power. Pretty much the same with all cards nowadays. They have a much lower idle setting than they do when they're really being used. You've got GPU temperature, GPU voltage, the current for the GPU, and then the fan speed. Along the top though, along here, you've got two other sections. You've got a gaming section, which takes away some of the overclocking settings, but you can still change the core clock and the memory clock. But then you've got other controls like the brightness, the contrast, gamma. Again, you can set up hotkeys to be able to switch between. But quite a cool feature, this is something that I really like, is you've got a green section. Basically, in the green section, if you have it set to this, then the GPU clock and the memory clock are much lower. But also, you can turn on a green mode, which basically saves even more power. It roughly halves the wattage that the card's using. I will flick it on, and you see the dial jump instantly. Then it's gone right down. And the wattage, it was 34, it's just gone down to 22, but it will carry on going down to about 16 over the next sort of few minutes. And it does take a little while to kick in. And it goes down to 19, it will carry on going down to 17, and it will take a little while to go right the way down. I've just gone into overclock, and you can instantly see that dial's gone back up again. It's now in the orange. Flick it into green, and it will pop right back down here again in a sec. Like I said, it just takes a little while. But this tool, I actually really like it. It makes everything all in one place. It's really simple. You've not got to mess about with anything. All of these voltages are being directly picked up from the card. It's very, very good. The only thing I will say is if you use a normal NVIDIA driver, like the 260.99s, the voltage settings don't work, so you do need to use the card driver that comes bundled with the card in the box to be able to get all of these, because I've tried the two. So yeah, that's the Overclock Guru, and it is really very good. But let's have a look at the power phases on the back of the card, just so I can show you the lights. Right then guys, you can see there that you've got just two lights on at the moment, with one flickering, so a third light flickering. But what I'm going to do is, literally all I've done there is started to open Vantage. You can see the extra lights there. Now obviously Vantage does take a little while for it to scan the system and everything like that, but you can now see the lights really starting to dance. If I turn the studio lights off, you'll be able to see better. Right, so now they're completely flat out. But if I stop Vantage again, if I just hit escape, you see it will go back. And eventually those power lights will go right back down again. It will stop drawing so much power, and it will go into its idle state, which is just two lights with that third one flickering every now and then. It's very clever the way it does monitor the power use and knock everything right back. There we go, down to 4 lights, and it will go right back to the final 2. Right, let's crack on with the actual performance of the card. Right then guys, let's talk about some performance. And there's going to be a lot of people looking at this going, is it better than the GTX480 Lightning? And believe it or not, considering that the Lightning's got that massive PCB and all the extra power phases and everything like that, if you stock cards, so literally out the box, in the rig with a 4 GHz CPU, it was better. basically 26,000 3D Mark P score for this stock card, straight out of the box. There you go, Bosch, 26k. And if you overclocked it, now basically something that I do want to say is when you overclock it, 900 core, easy, dead, match the lightning clock, easy. Now something that I did find a little bit woo with it was I was able to get it like way over 900 core, but I kept running into driver issues where the machine wasn't crashing at all. Now normally if you go past the limits of the card, it'll crash, you know what I mean, you'll start getting memory issues, it'll just freeze, and you literally have to do a hard power off to be able to reset it. Generally when 3D Mark freezes and it resets itself and you get the driver problem, do you know what I mean? It's not generally the card's fault, it's just an unstable driver. And past 900 core, that was the issues I was getting with this card. And to kind of put it into context why it is a driver problem, I'd hardly touched the volts. The volts on this, you've got like that massive bar, and it wasn't even a third of the way up. There is always the possibility that it's at the limits of the actual core itself. But to be quite honest with you, again, generally when that happens, it's a case of it's a complete freeze. Generally, you don't get that kind of driver problem, and it flashes up, driver display is recovered, blah de blah de blah, unless it is an unstable driver. So I hope Gigabyte will take a look at this and try and maybe bring out a newer driver for it, because I honestly think, considering that I'm only using air cooling as well, that this card has so much more to offer. But the fact that with literally no issues whatsoever, I was able to match the clock to the lightning, and this matching the clock to the lightning with everything exactly the same as what the GTX Lightning was, it was actually quicker as well. It was 29,000 3D marks, and don't forget this is a single 480 that we're talking about here, so absolutely bonkers really. I was incredibly impressed. Something else that I've been impressed by as well is the cooler, because it's standard height, so it doesn't really go much above the height of the PCI plates, and it's also a twin slot cooler as well, so it's if you had to have your cards right next door to each other, you can do. Cards like the the Zotac amps, for argument's sake, because of the Xamarin cooler on them, they're much bigger, then you have to give the card that extra slot. But with these you don't need to, and it works very well as well. It's only when you're really cranking the volts on the overclock that you really hear the fans spin up to what I would call a noticeable level. I mean, these are sat here now and it's just ticking away lovely, and it probably, you know what I mean, it doesn't really do much more when you're in when you're actually gaming, or you're like benchmarking or anything like that, for example. Talking about gaming though, I am going to be doing some game footage at the end. Obviously this video is now getting quite long, so I don't want to do too much. So I'll do 2 or 3 minutes of Crysis, 2 or 3 minutes of Metro, and then I'll do like an Alien vs Predator benchmark or something like that. With Crysis, I will do gamer settings so you can see what it will do if you don't want to have it all on maxed out, and I will, because everyone asks, do maxed out with all the anti-aliasing turned up, enthusiast settings, everything. So I do a couple of Crysis as well, and we'll see how well it does in Metro. But really, this is going to be the end of my ugly mug, and the nitty gritty really is, what would I say? Now, as far as 480s go, because obviously we don't want to be comparing this to like the 580s and stuff like this, but as far as 480s go, it's amazing. It's brilliant, and this is yet another thing that makes me think what were Nvidia doing in the first place, you know what I mean? Because this cooler, it's not, do you know what I mean? It's not something that engineers have spent 12 months over and have made like hundreds of different versions of it. It's just a nice simple cooler that works Yes, it does need more airflow because we know that the 480 core is a hot cookie. So yeah, it should have been like this to start off with. But big props to Gigabyte for bringing their own custom PCB overclocking card to the table. And if this is a sign of what's to come, then Gigabyte could be a serious GPU contender out there. And to be quite honest with you, considering that this is better than the Lightning, MSI should be worried, because this is kind of the market that MSI are famed for. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what else Gigabyte are going to be bringing us over the next few months, and I hope to get quite a few more cards in to play with, because it's a very good product. And to be quite honest with you, as far as 480s go, and I know I've been talking for ages, so I do apologise, but definite gold award for this one. It's a cracker. So if you're in the market for a card that you're going to be able to overclock, you want a 480, then to be quite honest with you, this should be top of your list of cards to consider, because it's an absolute cracker. Anyway, let's get on with some game footage, and it is me playing today, so you'll have something to laugh about, but hey, just watch the frames per second, because that's meant to be the point. Right then guys, playing Crysis. This is the gamer settings with no anti-aliasing, just to show you the frames per second up here. A lot of people also ask me why I don't use fraps to record the video with. But basically the reason for that is if I use fraps, then pretty much I wouldn't be able to, you wouldn't be able to hear the fans on the card. I need to be able to record the card so you can hear the fans over here. Anyway, this was literally just to show you, the what it can do. What I'm going to do now is just turn all the settings on. So we'll go up to the super duper settings. 16 times anti-aliasing, and then we'll put everything on enthusiast. Right, so now we're on super duper. As you can see, the frames per second have dropped right down to 30. It's quite playable. What I'm just going to do now is grab a few bits, but also I'm going to try and blow the helicopter up. I've actually wanted to do this in a video for you lot for a little while. Just put as much stuff up here as possible. Run away. Helicopter's dead! I do apologise. Frames per second, 32. Better get my guns out. I'll run down the front, get killed, and then we'll call that it for this one. And we'll move on to Metro. We'll go down here so I can get dead first. Who's shooting me? Oh, them. Let's run away because I'm never going to kill him. Oh, loads of people. Gonna die, gonna die. Fucking hell, they didn't want to die, did they? Anyway, this is enough for Crisis. Yes, I am terrible at it and I do apologise, but let's move on to Metro. Right then guys, on to Metro. Again, watch the frames per second at the top part of the screen, and keep an ear out for the fans on the card as well, because I don't know about you, but I'm sat right in front of it, facing it, and it's not span up at all yet. We always play the same section of this game just so that you can go back and look at any of the other videos that I've done and compare the frames per second between. And as always, you can see the full review on Overclock 3D. Also, please subscribe and comment. Anyway, we've got to the same bit that we do every time. This bit's pretty much fixed. Right, here we go guys. Alien vs Predator benchmark. We'll let this one play through. Don't forget, this is just with a stock card with the fans on auto. Just to give you a sort of a plug and play idea of what the card's capable of. At the end of the benchmark, we will call this the end of the video guys. Again, please don't forget to subscribe and comment if this is the first video of mine that you found and you like it. Also, please take a look at the channel because there are no adverts on the channel, so if you want to watch videos there you won't get pestered by any advert beginnings. And also there's going to be a lot more hardware coming over the next few weeks. I've got an awful lot to get through. But this looks like the end of the video guys. So Tiny Tom Logan out.